Dear students of medicine and allied sciences, I am happy to reach you through this video presentation on revision of histology. I am Dr. J.P. Gunasekharan, Professor of Anatomy at Pondicherry Institute of Medical Sciences and also author, Textbook of Histology, Atlas and a Practical Guide, Elsevier publication. The slides which you are going to see in this presentation are not new to you. You would have already seen these slides in your medical school during histology practical classes. Presentation of this type gives a quick review of all the slides with points of identification and related questions which are often asked during discussion of these slides. The whole histology is divided into 18 presentations, each of which is of 15 to 20 minutes duration. So the entire histology can be covered in 5 to 6 hours of viewing and listening. Now let's go to the presentation. This presentation deals with glandular tissue. Gland is an organ of secretion derived from epithelium. Gland develops as an invagination of epithelium into the underlying vascular connective tissue. After canalization, the dilated distal part becomes the secretory end piece, whereas the proximal narrow tubular part becomes the excretory duct, which opens on the surface of the epithelium from which it develops. The secretory end pieces are of many types. It can be rounded, flask-shaped, acinus, or cylindrical tubule, or sometimes it may be a combination of tubule and acinus known as tubulo-acinar. There are myoepithelial cells present in association with the acini, and these contractile myoepithelial cells on contraction squeezes the secretion out into the lumen of the duct. Malignant tumors arising from glandular epithelium are called adenocarcinomas, whereas the benign ones are called adenomas. The exocrine gland can be classified in many ways. Some of the commonest classification are based on number of ducts into simple and compound gland. Simple gland has got one duct, whereas the compound gland has got many ducts, both minor and major ducts. Based on mode of secretion, the gland can be classified into merocrine, apocrine, and holocrine. Most of the glands in our body are merocrine. In merocrine, the secretory granules are released into the lumen by exocytosis. Example, the salivary glands. In apocrine, the apical part of the cytoplasm is lost in the process of secretion. Example, mammary gland. In holocrine, the whole cell bursts out, pouring the cytoplasmic contents as secretion, resulting in death of cell. In short, during the process of secretion, in merocrine there is no loss of cytoplasm. In apocrine, there is partial loss of cytoplasm, and in holocrine, there is complete loss of cytoplasm. And finally, we have classification based on nature of secretion into serous, mucus, and mixed. Serous gland secretes a thin watery secretion rich in enzyme. Mucus gland secretes a thick viscous fluid which is involved in protection and lubrication, and mixed gland secretes secretion which is intermediate in consistency. Serous gland, example, parotid salivary gland, mucus, sublingual, and mixed submandibular salivary glands. These are the types of secretory end pieces shown schematically and photographically. This is a hematoxylin eosin drawings of serous acinus, mucous tubules and seromucous tubule. This is photomicrograph of serous, mucous and seromucous acini. Now, if you see the structure of the serous acinus, it's made of pyramidal shaped serous cells enclosing a narrow lumen. Each cell has got a round centrally placed nucleus. The apical part of the cell contains zymogen granules, whereas in the mucous acinus, the secretory cells are cuboidal in shape with a flat peripherally situated nucleus and mucigen droplets in the apical part of the cytoplasm. The lumen is relatively large compared to the serous acinus. In the seromucous acinus, you can see a dark serous patch over the mucous acini. This crescentic patch of serous cells is known as serous demilune. And this type of seromucous acini are seen plenty in submandibular salivary gland or the mixed salivary gland. This picture shows the duct system in a compound salivary gland. You can see the secretory end pieces, which is of acinus and tubules with a demilune over it, a mucous tubule, and over that you can see a serous demilune. And these ducts which are arising from the secretory end pieces are called the intercalated ducts. These intercalated ducts are lined by simple cuboidal epithelium, and these ducts join to form little larger duct or a medium-sized duct known as striated duct or secretory duct. These striated or secretory ducts are lined by low columnar epithelium. The basal part of the epithelium shows striation. The striation is due to the infoldings of the plasma membrane and longitudinal orientation of mitochondria. This striation is a characteristic feature of an ion transporting cell. So the function of the striated duct is to change the ionic composition of the primary saliva, which is isotonic, to hypertonic by secreting potassium ions and absorbing sodium ions. These ducts join to form a large interlobular duct, and these ducts, interlobular ducts, are lined by stratified cuboidal epithelium. These ducts join to form large excretory duct, and this duct is lined by either stratified cuboidal or stratified squamous epithelium. Before we go into the structure of the mucous, serous and mixed glands, let us see the general architecture of a gland. The gland is a solid organ. In general, any solid organ is composed of parenchyma and stroma. So also the gland. Parenchyma is the functional component of the organ. The functional component of a gland is the secretory end pieces or the secretory acini and the associated ducts. The secretory acini may be mucous, serous or mixed variety. The stroma is the connective tissue component of the organ. Here it is a gland. A gland is surrounded externally by capsule, and the capsule sends trabeculae into the interior or interlobular septae, dividing the organ into number of lobules. These lobules are separated by interlobular connective tissue septae, and the lobules So interlobular, the stroma includes interlobular septae. The lobules contain the secretory acini, the functional part of the gland, and these secretory acini are supported by loose areolar connective tissue, which is known as the intralobular connective tissue. So in short, a gland is made up of parenchyma and stroma. The parenchyma is the functional component. Here it is a secretory acini and the associated duct, whereas the stroma is the connective tissue component, which includes the capsule, interlobular septae, and intralobular connective tissue that supports the parenchyma. This is a section of serous gland. Example, parotid salivary gland. Parotid is purely made of serous acini. It is also a compound gland because you can see ducts of different calibers. There are larger ducts found in the interlobular septae, interlobular ducts, and smaller ducts found within the lobules. These are the intralobular ducts, mainly the striated ducts and intercalated ducts. So the parotid gland is a compound acinar gland because only the serous acini are seen, no tubules is seen. Now the next picture shows a higher magnification of the serous gland, where you can see the serous acinus very clearly with a smaller lumen and spherical nucleus, which can be well appreciated in a schematic picture. These serous acini have got a narrow lumen and a spherical centrally placed or subcentral in position, and then the apical part of the cytoplasm contains the zymogen granules. This one is a hematoxylin-eosin diagram of serous gland, example parotid salivary gland, which can be identified by the presence of only ductily stained serous acini with narrow lumen and centrally placed nuclei. And you have a well-developed duct system which includes the striated ducts, the intercalated ducts, and the interlobular ducts. So ducts are plenty in parotid salivary gland. This is a section of mucous gland, example sublingual salivary gland, and the sublingual is made of plenty of mucous acini. Apart from mucous acini, you do find some serous cells taking the shape of a demilume, and such, though there are demilunes are present, but the gland is predominantly made of the mucous acini. So for all practical purpose, it can be considered as a mucous salivary gland. And you can see the ducts, very few ducts can be seen here and there, and these are the striated duct or the secretory ducts. So the duct system is poorly developed. This is a higher magnification of mucous gland, where you can see the mucous acini and the ducts are there, the striated ducts. Here you can see 3 striated ducts, and you can see the basal striations of these ducts in the epithelium. And under schematic picture, you can very well appreciate the structure of the mucous acinus. You have each mucous acinus has got a large lumen, flat, peripherally situated nuclei, and the apical part of the cytoplasm contains mucigen droplets. And these mucous acini are lined by cuboidal epithelial cells, in contrast to the pyramidal epithelial secretory cells of the serous acini. This is a H&D drawing of mucous gland, example sublingual salivary gland, which can be identified by the presence of lightly stained mucous acini having a larger lumen and peripherally situated flat nuclei, and the ducts which are poorly developed, and you can see the few ducts intralobularly and interlobular in position. The This is a section of a mixed gland, example submandibular salivary gland, and in this you can see a mixture of lightly stained mucous acini and darkly stained serous acini. Apart from these, you can see under higher magnification the structure of the serous acinus mucous acini can be well appreciated, and here is a seromucous acini are there, where you have a serous demilune capping a mucous acinus. This can be well appreciated in a schematic picture. Here this is a seromucous acini where the serous demilune is over a mucous acinus. This is a H&D drawing of mixed gland, example submandibular salivary gland, which can be identified by the presence of lightly stained mucous acini and darkly stained serous acini, and the duct system is moderately developed. And this is a table showing the differences between serous and mucous acini. We have already seen these differences in the earlier slides, so I am not going to enumerate the differences, and you can just have a look at the table to show the differences. These are the probable viva questions which are often asked. I want the students to go through these questions and find out answers for them. With this, we come to the end of presentation on glandular tissue. Thank you for listening and watching.